Thank you, Chairman Victor. Good night, everybody, UNC family. And like the former speaker said, welcome and thank you all for being here, for braving this weather. My colleagues and the United Patriots team, I am proud to be associated with these guys. Everybody, give them a great round of applause and give yourselves a round of applause. You know, tonight, as I have these few minutes, as Jazzy said, in a few days' time, we go to the polls on Saturday. I want to remind you, coming up from San Fernando, the weather is very bad. It's a Saturday. This is the first time that we are having an internal elections on a Saturday. Saturday is a market day. Either the vendors going to the market to sell, or we are going to the market. Sunday is Father's Day, and I think this week is cricket as well. So just bear that in mind. You have to purpose in your minds right now that you're going to carve out some time on Saturday. And these elections, unlike general elections, are not from 6 in the morning, so the early risers can't go out. It's from 8 to 6. And I know in the evening time, everybody's shopping and getting the last minute Father's Day gift and so on. But make sure that you make some time. You know what your schedule is like. And that you get out to the polls and you put your vote for the praying hands. Because as Jazzy said, this is a very important election. It's a historic one. And I want to connect what he has been repeating and what he has been saying all the time. This idea of a stronger UNC for a stronger and a better Trinidad and Tobago. You know, the other day, Jazzy was reading out my things, and yes, I like to study and I like to read because I want to understand. I want to understand. And I was reflecting, I did courses on leadership and personal development, time management, team building, project management, a whole range of things. And I stood back and I was reflecting. I said, what have you learned after all these years? And it dawned on me that in every knowledge exercise, whether it is seminars, or whether it's a book you're reading, or whether it's a debate you're doing in Parliament, or whatever, there are 3 essential components. And it applies to your life as well. It applies to what we are doing here in the politics. And those 3 things are this. We want something. And if I could illustrate to you and you could visualize, pretend what you want is down there. Now, what we want is a different administration for the UNC. We want a stronger UNC, a better UNC. If you want a house, you might be living in a rented apartment. Where you are in a rented apartment, but in your mind now you're saying, I want a new house. I want a bigger and a better house. It's sometime in the future. So there's what you want, there's where you are. But you don't get what you want by staying where you are and saying, I want a nice house, I want a better house. You have to do something. You see these tiles, you have to make step by step. You got to save money, you got to buy the land, you got to get plans drawn up. There's a whole series of steps to get a house. If it's education you want for yourself and your children, it's the same thing. You might see yourself wanting a degree, but you look now what you have. You have O-levels, you have whatever, you have a first degree, you want a second degree. Where you are now, where you want to be. Think about it, think about that. And I thought about it. The reason I'm saying that is because there has been a narrative spread, and Victor alluded to it, that we are PNM, that we're seeking to mash up the party. I have in my hands the Constitution of the National Congress. And many people talk about the Constitution, but maybe they have not read it. And this Constitution says that every 2 years, the framers of this Constitution, way back when Bastille Pandey, I think it was Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, who was probably the chief architect of this Constitution, that every 2 years, members of the party have a right to elect a new executive. So we are not doing anything. We're calling us wannabe and dissidents and enemies. How that makes us then enemies? I hear it all on the radio and so on. How that makes us PNM? We are only exercising our constitutional right under this Constitution. We are all members of the UNC. You heard since 1996, I became an executive member of the UNC many years ago. And let me read from the very first thing in the preamble signed by Mr. Bastille Pandey himself. And when I first met Kyle, I remember we were talking about this. The constitution of any organization. Some of you have businesses. You know, you have to file formal corporate documents in the courts. The country has a constitution. It's a sacred document. The constitution of any organization constitutes the rules and regulations which shall govern and guide the relationship among you, the members, we, the members, and the organization. So this is a bunch of rules and regulations. From the day that Russian Party in March, I think it was the 22nd, said that we are calling for election. We are calling for election within the 2 years that this he wasn't saying anything wrong. You know what they were saying? We're preparing for election next year. Now tell me which of you have a bill to pay, and one is due next year, and one is due next month, and you concentrating on the one for next year, and you forgetting the one for next month. That makes sense? They're preparing for elections for next year. And the narrative was on the ground. Victor has said it, and there was a tape going around where members of that executive were saying, no matter with that, they're having no internal election this year. We focus on that was said. So when they are getting up on TV and telling you, you know, that they were not saying that elections will be held when it's constitutionally due. And a whole set of them the weekend after MP Russian Party indicated that he wanted internal elections, making a call for internal election. They got up and all of them began to sing the same song. We abide by the party's constitution. And I know this document, one of them even got up and said, I know the constitution. As though she was implying that you don't know the constitution. I know it. Well, I read the constitution. And this constitution has not been followed. The idea of having elections when it is constitutionally due within 2 years of the last election is one small part of the election. Now, let me ask you something. If you have 100 rules and you're following one and you're breaking 99, that is abiding by the thing? That making sense? Well, nothing in this book. I haven't been there in the bowels of the UNC, but we have heard MP Russian Party, MP Rodney Charles, and MP Dinesh Rambali talk about all the ills of the organization. MP Rambali had said meetings are not ever held on time. As a disrespect, look, we start here, we have some brain and so on, but we start on time. You know, no agendas, no planning, no preparation, no kind of structure. I've heard them say this, those screening processes would belittle people. People sitting down waiting for hours from 3 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the night. What nonsense is that? MP Paria said when he asked the former treasurer what rent was being paid for the head office down in Chicago, he said he didn't know. When he asked him what was the state of the finance, he didn't know. There's no accountability, and as I've said before, all of us know from the smallest NGO to the largest organization, having proper financial accounting procedures and presenting financial statements to the board of directors, the leadership, is a accepted thing. It's a standard of organization. It's evidence of good governance. Every organization that runs properly has that. You must have that. So that is why we are saying, you know, abiding by the Constitution is important, because these are the rules that comply the organization. And this group of people, as Victor already alluded, there are so many on the other side before the court and all kind of irregularity. But this is a group of integrity. You have a senior counsel here, you have another attorney here of repute, and with Russian Party and the whole rest of team, Anita Haynes and so on, seeking to restore this party, to build up this party. Now, let me quote something else that comes from the very beginning of the Constitution, because every time I heard, you know, that phrase being mentioned, that we abide by the Constitution, I got angry, I felt a vomit. Hear what it says. On page 4, article number 6, to foster the ethos, substance, and processes of democracy in all spheres and aspects of national life. Now, you tell me, any of you have been following UNC politics, and you hear what is going on recently. You see any democracy being practiced there? Here the next law, to struggle, and that was Mr. Pandey's favorite word. I remember once when I was in banking, meeting him in a court one time, and when he finished his trial and so on, Carl, he said, keep on the struggle, my brother. You know, he told us about the struggle. To struggle against any tendency towards authoritarianism, autocracy, and dictatorship. To struggle against that, that is what we are doing here. Because ask anybody, I saw a text or an email that was going wrong at the start of the campaign by Marshall Walker, who I think is from this area, which was saying all these things about the Constitution. A short one about three or four lines, several paragraphs. And it was ignored. And you know what she said? Other members of the NATEC was telling her, go to the leader with it. And when she go to the leader saying, go to the other, never acted upon it. And others will tell us that nothing happens in the party until one person is that democracy or dictatorship? I will suggest to you that we have moved from democracy. There's no democracy in the party. Dictatorship. Let me tell you something else the Constitution says. In Article number 8, the units and organs of the party shall comprise the following. 11 of them on pages 8 to 9. So I'm not giving you all talk. I'm quoting from the actual document. And the first four said, number 1 is the party group. Number 2 is the constituency executive. Number 3 is the constituency council. And number 4 is the annual constituency congress. You ever hear about it in UNC? Many people would say, we have the party group. What party group you're talking about? And here what it goes on to say in section B. The basic institution of the party shall be the party group. And you tell me, if you have an attorney, you have a senior counsel that, we have a senior counsel here, they know what they're doing. This constitution has been violated, it has been ignored, it has been deliberately transferred. If you take somebody who knows nothing about constitution, knows nothing about law, you could excuse them, they're ignorant. But you can't put a person who's qualified in the law, and even if they have given themselves their own qualification of senior counsel, and doing this kind of nonsense. 4 of these 11 institutions are at the constituency level we hear in Diego Martin tonight. So that you have, now that is democracy, the basic institution. You, the people, the party was designed, the constitution, the framers of the constitution designed it so that we move upward from you, the people. So if you want better roads, you want better jobs, you want better things, we have a nice community center here and so on. Our community, and it filters up to the executive of the party. As the party stands today, and as it has for many years now, is top-down. You have the executive and you have a group of people at the top, and the base of the party, the members of the party are ignored. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we are campaigning about, what we are struggling about. And my final point, if the Constitution is ignored, if the organs of the party are not, I saw a television clip, some of you would have seen it, where she said, all the organs of the party working, eh? And she's looking around so like if she doesn't know. Well, let me ask you, you have family and I have family who have been sick. We know what happens when our organs begin to shut down. You see people, you have hand, but the hand swinging so on, so on. The hand is non-functional, it's probably damaged in an accident. So we have some party groups around and so on, and some names, but they're not functioning. Most of them are not functioning. Well, the end result of that is that there's no democracy. You ever hear the individual saying again, the UNC is a democratic institution. The UNC is what? I don't want to use the unparliamentary word. But that is not true. We have been taught as children, speak the truth. Our parents used to want to wash our mouth out with soap and so on. That's what we grow up in, speaking the truth. And leaders of all people who are in positions of influence in this society. Now, my concept of leadership is not that you will lose your work if you have support me. My concept of leadership is that leadership should inspire people. Leadership should be honest. Leadership should be of integrity. Leadership should be trustworthy. Leadership is when people want to follow somebody because they like what that person is doing to empower them, to help them in their situation. Not doing it because I'm afraid I'll lose my work or afraid. Not by threats. That's the old style of leadership that has long gone out of the window. We want leaders who will lift us up and inspire us. So on Saturday, Victor gave me a little black. I'm going to talk a little bit more, but I know the weather and we want to close up and so on and so on. So thank you very much for your attention. This is serious business. We're voting for change. We have 2 parties in the country, and as you said, we all know the problems of the country, the economic problems, the crime problems, and you could go on and on. We just had the tax situation, and I'm asking myself, where was the chairman of the board of Inland Revenue and all the other tax people? If 2 people could be owning $100 million. Where are the tax officers and the supervisors? I know a little bit of the structure of organization. And the people in the hierarchy, the Minister of Finance, they must know. When you have billions of dollars being owed in taxes, you say, well, who owing this money? So we have a lot of things wrong with the country. And I have been in meetings where we could talk whole night about the problems of the country, but we cannot do anything about the problems of the country if we are not in government. And therefore, we want to fix the problem. The goal is better governance. We want a better Trinidad and Tobago. But we're here now, we're not in power, so therefore we need to get into power. And in order to do that, we have to win an election. And in order to win an election, we need a stronger UNC. We need a UNC that is organized, and a stronger UNC don't mean 10, 12 people. It means the whole party, everybody has to be motivated, has to be energized, has to be activated so that we get involved in the process. And that is the connection between this election that will take place on Saturday and the state of the country. Now, I am kind of there moving off the scene now, but you young people, for your children and for your grandchildren, for the younger ones coming up, what kind of society are we living for them? Make sure you go out on Saturday, beat the rain and so on as we have done this evening, and come out here and put your X by the praying hands, vote for the praying hands. Thank you very much. God bless you.